Hello, and welcome back to your South King County real estate update. My name's Sarah Eggleston with Stone Egg Realty at Berkshire Hathaway, and I am back with your local real estate news for the area. Let's go ahead and jump right on into these slides. So it is March 2025, and let's find out what happened this month. Just a quick note, I do have a couple upcoming classes. One is next week, a beginner's guide to home buying, house hunting made simple. So this is a first-time home buyer class, or if you haven't bought a home in a while, it's also a good idea because things change in the industry quite a bit. And it'll be on Thursday at 6 p.m. In April, at the end of April, on the 24th, also 6 p.m. These are both webinars. I have my renovation loan virtual workshop. And I am a huge fan of this loan type. It's what my husband and I use to purchase our home. It's a really underutilized loan type. It means you can take a fixer-upper home, something that needs a little bit of work or a lot of work, and get that renovation cost wrapped into your 30-year fixed mortgage. So you get to enjoy the home and the completed renovation right away and pay it off over time. So my husband and I would have not been able to afford a house nearly as nice as we currently have if we had purchased one that was ready to go. Plus, we got to choose all our own finishes and paint colors and all of that. And it was all ready to go by the time we moved in. So if this is something that may interest you, please sign up for that. The link will be in the comments or description below. And my spring buyer and seller guides are now available. I have first time home buyer guide and then the buyer and seller guides for this year. Tons of great information in these guides that will be of huge value to you when you are buying or selling your home. So if you want one of these, reach out to me and I'll get one over to you. I can get you a hard copy or a PDF, whatever's easiest for you. But yes, if you're planning on purchasing or selling this year or both, I would love to get one of these over to you soon. And into the news, King County home prices slow in February, but some pockets surge. So as always, the real estate market varies a lot area to area, and it's important to be tuned in to what's happening in that specific area and your specific price point, whether you're looking at single family homes or condos, because it's all very, very different. The median price of single family homes in King County was $915,000, which is essentially unchanged from last year. The big picture trend was a slowdown in sales volume, a slowdown in activity after January. And that's from Jeff Tucker, who's the principal economist at Windermere. Normally, the market gains steam after December, but February represented a bit of wind coming out of the sails of the market. So we had a really intense January, and February did in this region tick down a little bit on the intensity. But some parts of King County fared differently from others. In Seattle, the median home price was $965,000, up 4% from a year earlier. And the east side was actually up 14.6% from a year earlier. So bringing it to 1.68 million for the median home price. So as I said, it varies a lot area to area. So if you're looking in Seattle, East Side, or South King County, it's all very, very different. Overall, the tight market was firmly in the seller's favor, and Northwest MLS considers a market balanced when it would take 4 to 6 months to sell all of the homes active in its inventory. In February, that measure was just over 2 months. So we're still in a seller's market, but not nearly as intense as it was during the pandemic years. So looking at the home price activity here for King, you can see we went down and then bounced up in the summer as we normally would expect, and then back down. And now we are on an upward swing, ending right about where we were last year. For condos, Seattle condo price was $625, up 12% from a year earlier, and the East Side condos were up 18% from a year earlier. So condos have definitely made a stronger price history from where they were a year ago than single family homes. Condos do include those apartment-like homes in multifamily buildings, but they also include detached accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, which can resemble single-family homes. Usually they're a little bit smaller, but detached ADUs are standalone units that look a lot like a house. But despite the slow month, some Seattle area real estate agents said they saw an uptick in activity, and I include myself in that. I have had a lot of conversations with people who are ready to get back in the market and start shopping. We're headed into the springtime. The highest activity is in May, June, July, and we are headed into that spring market. Happy spring. It is now officially spring. Amy McKenna, managing broker of Windermere's Ballard office, said in her personal perception, February felt busier than normal. She thinks that people are adjusting to the interest rates, which have come down a bit from the highs right around 7, just over 7. So they're kind of bouncing around between 6.5 and 7 right now. Also, that the lock-in effect is starting to ease. So that was when homeowners had refinanced or purchased during the low interest rate period of the pandemic. And if they move now, it was be giving up their 3-4% interest rate to go into a 6.5 or 7% interest rate. And it just didn't make sense for a lot of people to move. But people that are wanting to move or need to move, they're realizing that interest rates are not going to go back down to 4% and that they need to move on from their current situation into a new home. Median home price in East Side, this huge jump here. Seattle was a little bit ahead, but in the South End here, we're pretty close to where we were a year ago. Southwest King is just a little bit less, and Southeast King is just a little bit more. For condos, Seattle and East Side did outpace on price from where they were last year, but the other 3 areas here are just a little bit behind where they were last year. For the number of home and condo sales, Seattle did decrease, but East Side pretty close to where they were last year, outpacing last year just slightly. And Southwest and Southeast King, there were more home sales this year in February than there were a year ago. And condo sales, Seattle and East Side outpacing where they were last year, but Southwest and Southeast King are just a little bit less. So we're not too far off in the South End here from where we were last year. So this is a national piece here, so take that into account. But home prices are growing at a more normal pace than they have been. Prior to the pandemic here, this is kind of our normal price appreciation, right around 2, 3, 4%. And then during the pandemic, things went they had crazy acceleration, and home price appreciation went through the roof when those interest rates went up in 2022. We saw a huge pullback on the home price increases, and now we're reaching that more normal range. In March, April, May last year, it was higher than normal. And then now we're pulling back to right around that 3-4% price increase. But that does vary a significant amount by location. So here in Seattle, we're about 5.61% price appreciation year over year, seasonally adjusted. This is a quote from Zillow. Prices are expected to rise this year, though most will do so more slowly than they did last year. Slower growth is good news for buyers who have locked in their budgets and are saving for down payments. So as far as home price forecasts looking forward, the average of all of these estimates is 2.7% price appreciation. And that brings us to our hyperlocal breakdown. For new listings, we are up in Kent, Renton, Auburn, and Federal Way is down from where we were last year in new listings, but Renton is up 43% from where they were 1 year ago in February for the number of listings coming to market. Pending sales down slightly in Kent and Auburn, and Renton and Federal Way have increased from where they were last year on the number of pending sales. And median days on market from last month, we have greatly decreased the number of days on market. So things are sitting on the market a shorter period of time before they are getting an offer accepted. But from last year, it is down in all areas on the amount of time a home sits on the market. And median sales price Up in three of the areas, Renton is down by 2% for median sales price, but Kent, Renton, and Federal Way are all up from 1 year ago. And from last month, Federal Way, you can see this big jump, but the other areas did tick down from last month on median sales price. For mortgage rates, last month it was 6.85%. And for our daily, it was 6.89. And for today, our weekly average mortgage rate rose to 6.67. So we had 7 straight weeks, I think, of decreasing mortgage rates on the weekly average. And the last 2 weeks, we have popped up, but not too much, not too extreme. One thing to look for heading forward is volatility. Please be prepared for that. There is going to be some ups and downs as always, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. So there is a little bit of bouncing around. Sometimes we get good news, sometimes we get bad news, and that affects the mortgage rates in different ways. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage has stayed under 7% for 9 consecutive weeks, which is helpful for potential buyers and sellers alike. And that's from Sam Cater of Freddie Mac, the chief economist. And the Fed has been holding its key interest rate steady this year after cutting it sharply through the end of last year. While lower rates can give the economy a boost, they can also stoke inflation. So remember that inflation is the enemy of mortgage rates. High inflation means high mortgage rates. And so we want to get that inflation number down to the 2% target that the Fed has if we want to see the Fed cut rates from their benchmark interest rate. On Wednesday, they did meet and the central bank kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged. It also signaled that it still expects to cut rates twice this year, even as it sees inflation staying stubbornly elevated. And for our daily interest rate, we have 6.72. So that's almost flat from yesterday, but we are ending this week lower than we started the week. And rates are declining faster than expected. The original projection was that the average Q1 interest rate would be at 6.97, but it was actually 6.7. So rates are declining faster than they were projected to. Even a small rate changes can affect your buying power. So if you look at this chart for a $440,000 home, if it's a 7.5 interest rate, it would be just over 3,000. If we bring it down just a percentage point to 6.5, that's 2,700. In our area, generally our home prices are a little bit higher than this. Not that there aren't homes out there around this price, but the average price for our homes would be higher than these numbers you're seeing here. But you can see how much, even at the lower price point, this affects the payment per month. If inflation continues slowing this year, we should see mortgage rates go down a little bit. Weaker economic growth could also help rates fall, and that's from Business Insider. So this is where we're at right now is 2.6. So down from the last couple months, heading back towards that 2% target. And if we can get that inflation under control, we should see mortgage rates reduce. And this is just to get a view of where we're at over time. We were lower than we are now in October. But other than that, we're pretty low unless you go back into 2023. Just wrapping up, on Thursday of next week, I have my beginner home buyer class and the renovation loan virtual workshop in April. So if you know anyone who's maybe interested in these, please share the information with them. And if that's you, please sign up and save your spot today. Spots are limited, so make sure to grab your webinar seat. And those spring buyer and seller guides and first-time home buyer guides are available. If you want one of those, please let me know. I'd be happy to get one of those out to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My phone number and email address are on the screen there. I would love to have a conversation with you about the real estate market in your area or maybe an area you're interested in moving to. We can grab a cup of coffee or chat on the phone or whatever is most convenient for you. Thank you so much for joining me for your South King County real estate update. I'll be back next month with your local real estate news. Have a fantastic month. Happy spring, and I will see you next month. Bye-bye.